Morena, let's commence with our karakia. Whakataka te ho ke te uru, whakataka te ho ke te tonga, kia mā kena ke uta, kia mā taratara ke tai, he ake ane te ātakura, he tia, he huke, he hohu, te he Māori ora. Welcome, 2024. Apologies, I think we've got apology from our Chief Executive, Sharon, but we've got Sam online, so I don't believe we've got any other apologies. Extraordinary business. I don't believe there is any. Any new or additional conflicts of interest to be declared? No. Have a mover and a seconder for that, please? Thank you, Phil. Thank you. All those in favour? Aye. That moves us on to our minutes, taking us back to 2023. So we've got two sets of minutes. Our first was the 3rd of October. So if I could have someone to please move that they are a true and accurate record. Thank you, Phil. And seconder? Yes. Thank you. All those in favour? And then that takes us on to the extraordinary meeting on the 29th of November. I'll have someone move and second that they are a true and accurate record. Thank you. And all those in favour? Right. Now we have our terms of reference there for information only. And I think I asked for going forward to make sure that we always have our annual work program. It almost acts as an appendix to the terms of reference. So as governors, it allows us to give us a level of confidence that we're meeting our obligations under the terms of reference. So by having that annual work program attached for every hui, we can just make sure that what we're receiving is exactly what we need to. Verbal report from me, not too much, pretty new into the new year. I've got
Annalisa, sorry.
Oh, sorry.
Just on the last message, just before we move on, the terms of reference, there'll be a workshop coming up for council. Just like to just highlight that now for the committee. And I don't know if there's a process that you'd like to see around what those terms of reference or any renewal to that could look like into the future. It doesn't have to be discussed at this meeting, but I think this committee needs to be aware that that conversation is obviously happening. and having input into that process will be important. There's no plans to get rid of the Audit and Risk Committee, but I think there'll be the opportunity, obviously, to look at its scope and areas of interest in reporting.
Yeah, thanks, Sam. I was going to go into that a little bit later. I guess at a high level now, you'll see that, and I've had korero with Sharon, I've had korero with Sam, I've had korero with Tim. So obviously the pack as represented today probably doesn't align to the annual work program. So there is a reset that is needed, and that's why I've asked for the annual work program to make sure it is in every hui. And so we will we'll come to that a little bit later on and setting our expectations. I believe our next hui is in May. And as I said to Tim last week, I think between February and May, I think we're going to be overwhelmingly surprised at what we will see in May. So let's come to that a little bit later, and we can set our expectations of what we think management can achieve during that time, with support from myself and also support from additional resource that I think is required. But we'll come to that a little bit later on. Shane, did you have some more questions or comments around the terms of reference?
Yes, I did, Madam Chair. Titiro koe ki te tiriti o Waitangi, hari wuri Waitangi o te rā, tēnā koe e koromatua Sam, me hari hoki te tai tokerau, nau mahara mai tuki mai, tēnā koe e Megan, mana whenua, tēnā rā tātou katoa, kai mahi Waikirikiri, tēnā koe. Madam Chair, is it appropriate to add our appointed member, or will that be reflected in the standing orders for our mana whenua representatives in the terms of reference for membership?
Yeah, it will be.
Yep.
Once that has been, I'm not believe that it's absolutely should be.
Okay, kia ora. And the rest of my questions revolve around that work plan, so thank you.
I guess I wanted to just ask a question, but if we're going to be dealing with it all later, please stop me. My concern is that there was this plan of for 2023 was determined some time ago, and October was our last meeting, which was some months back. Finance and treasury and cyber security are important things, and for them not to be in this month's meeting is a real risk for me. And so while we might be going to go through and a bit of a reset, they're not on there because they just look good on a piece of paper. They're on there because they were things that we wanted to know the risk of. And I think that we need as the governance team, we needed some assurance from the management team that we are in the right place with cybersecurity and that we are in the right place. So I guess if that's something we're going to cover later, I'm happy to ask the question later, but that's my question.
Yeah, no, let's do it now. So the korero that I've had with Sam, our chief executive, and Tim is very much that, and it's not actually just going to one thing like where is cybersecurity. Obviously, the papers that have been presented for this hui, I'm not sure where they actually align to the terms of reference or the annual work program. So I think what needs to happen between now and May is that management need to take the terms of reference and almost rewrite the 2024 annual work program that is going to allow us to meet our obligations under the terms of reference. So we know through Teresa's great work, we've got meetings, we've got huis set up, we know what the meetings are going to be until the end of 2024. So now that we have those dates to allow us to meet our obligations under the terms of reference for every hui, what are we going to see? So management are very aware of that, leading by Sharon with this reset. We do need to give management a little bit of breathing space and a little bit of empathy of what they have been through in the last 3 months, remembering that we didn't sign off the annual report until just before Christmas, and that was a huge amount of work from the finance team, and that's been their main kind of responsibility to get that through. We've obviously had some movements in personnel, which is, well, a few movements in personnel that is contributing to their workload. So I do have, I have a lot of empathy for management, but I have still reiterated to obviously 3 members that, okay, let's get this right for May. So I think what my recommendation, again, this is a management decision, not a governance suggestion, but my recommendation to them is that they need a risk and assurance manager with a sense of urgency. And I believe that that is actually a current vacancy, but that person needs to own and own the audit and risk committee really, and own that annual work program so that they can make sure for every hui we are receiving exactly what we need to see. And someone needs to own that. And obviously Tim is wearing quite a few hats at the moment. So and again, it's a personal thing. And this is a management decision, not a governance decision, but my recommendation is that I don't think that Tim's necessarily got the capacity to do that all by himself. So that's the kōrero I've had with Sharon and with Sam and with Tim. And I've also said that also with a sense of urgency, you know, this has been a 2 or 3 year kōrero, and I think we got Shane through pushing that agenda for me last year. We got that internal audit program approved by council. We saw a couple of PwC reports last year in draft, but again, that needs to be a more formalised process. My recommendation to the Chief Executive last week and Tim on Friday was that we go to market for an internal audit provider. And so we build a relationship with them. And so the first thing that they would do is actually come in and do a risk-based assessment and decide what that internal audit program would look like. So they would actually tell us, we recommend, we've got a budget for 4 internal audits a year. So we recommend, based on a risk-based approach, these are the 4 internal audits that you should be looking at. That provider would then deliver those 4 internal audits. So that's been my recommendation to management. You'll see that PwC did a couple of internal audits last year, but I wasn't sure around why were we looking. I think it was cash receipts and it was something else, but I'm like, you know, as a governing group, we didn't have an understanding of why we were looking at that in particular. So there's a lot of mahi to be done between now and May, and I think that's going to start with going to market for a risk and assurance manager as soon as possible, and then also going to market with an internal audit provider. And I think if we can get those 2 things to wrap some support around management, I'm optimistic and I'm positive that come our May hui, the reporting pack will look very different. So there's been a lot of mahi from myself in the last couple of weeks. I'm very aware of what the report pack looks like today. And I was even, you know, in 2 minds around, do we kind of give management a little bit more time and postpone the hui? But I thought actually we're here, we've got something in front of us, and let's focus our attention on setting our expectations for May. So that's enough from me on that particular topic. If there's any other, do you want to say anything?
Yeah, no, thank you, Annalisa. And I did have a conversation, Annalisa, I think it was Monday actually, around those points. And I can tell the committee that we have a job description, intend to go to the market for a risk assurance person in the next couple of weeks. So we should have someone well on board, fingers crossed, by May. And I've spoken to Alison about an internal audit work program, and I think that Alison can speak to that, but we intend to bring you a work program at the very minimum at the May meeting. Alison, do you want to just?
Yeah, thanks, Tim. And Annalisa, you're right. There are some things missing from this. So, I mean, Tim has talked to risk and assurance, and I think that will go to that wider enterprise risk framework, splitting between strategic, operational, where's that risk interconnectivity, but also landing on what the risk appetite is as well, which needs to probably set the scene a little bit. Finance and Treasury, we are working through a revised report, which will be a combination of the Treasury report that was tabled previously and the financials from a risk standpoint. It will differ from what goes to the Finance and Performance Committee, but if I'm reading the terms of reference of this correctly, it's where's the risk aspect of what is going on within Selwyn District Council. So that's how that will be presented. With the internal audit programme, we will do an RFI out to the market. You're right, we have done some work with PwC. That still needs to be closed out, and we will invite PwC in to talk to their findings. We're not saying that PwC will be the provider. It will be open to who is the best provider that comes out through that response, with the 4 internal audits happening per year.
Sorry.
Can't see your lovely face. Kia ora, Madam Chair. Tēnā koe. thank you very much for opening that conversation. At the risk of descending into general business, I just wanted to say that the further investigation gives me a high level of comfort, and the reporting hereafter should as well. I think we had previously worked on appetite through the previous work plan, and also that matrix. I'm a visual learner, so the graphs are very helpful in understanding our risk and also our strengths and weaknesses in that type of that matrix type of thing, and where we need to build out to. And in that vein, I guess in revising and investigating the work plan for the future, and understanding the advice that was given to have 2 independent members, and now that we have moved to a quarterly meetings, will that be under revision as well, whether we continue with 2 independents, or whether, given the nature that there's quarterly meetings now, do we still need that? And I don't need to answer that now. I just want to hope that will be part of the revision as well, because it's great to receive advice, but what we do with that advice is totally up to our council.
I can answer the bit around the independence, which was going to be the last part of my verbal update. So we are in the middle of interviews. So we have commenced 2 interviews with Brannigan, Sam and myself, and we have a 3rd interview this week. So yes, there will be a 2nd independent. And although the standard audit and risk committee meeting, I guess, frequency is quarterly, you know, it's never just quarterly, it's always quarterly +1. I always say 4+1. With us, it seems to be 4+2+3, depending on how our annual report process is going. And obviously, as we can remember back to 2023, my time is 4+25 or 26. You know, there's actually a lot more going on behind the scenes. I'm still a very strong advocate for having a 2nd independent. You know, we did that 360 skills assessment when we go back to looking at the terms of reference. And I think when we're looking at all the governing committees, talking to Sam, you know, there's definitely a broad range of skill set required, and that real strategic view looking forward, and none of us can be everything. So yeah, I would not squashing your comment about do we need a 2nd independent. It took me 3 years to get that, Shane. So 3rd interview is happening this Friday, and I'm a very strong advocate that we do need a 2nd independent. So
Thank you, Madam Chair.
I think, was there another question on that, or was that the main question from your? I think you just had corridor around the terms of reference, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, and verbal report for consistency, and I have asked in the previously around written reports from our chair committees, and there is the the current process is all chairs to submit a written report, and I just wanted to bring that up again to have that corridor for consistency. Thank you.
Yes, sorry, I just wanted to just, well, that's great. And I really thank you, Madam Chair, for the update there. It's great to hear that we've got some positive stuff going on. My concerns are about the risks that we're missing, and what, October was a long time ago, and now for us to have them missing out on this stuff now, we need some undertaking from the management team that these, I know there's been the late annual report, the changes of personnel that have been, and all that have led to it. I guess I'm feeling a wee bit in the dark when it comes to some of the risk that we have some responsibility for, and let's face it, this is the Audit and Risk Committee. We have some responsibilities around the auditing and the risk. It's in the name, and so my discomfort in that area hasn't gone away by the fact that we've got plans for the future without an undertaking that, in fact, all the risks that we should be looking at are not currently flash pointing.
Yep, absolutely, and completely agree with you with that. And I think the appointment of that risk and assurance manager, I'll be setting my expectations. I mean, that typically that role has a dotted line to me anyway. You know, they'll be reporting through to management, but through independence and their ability to report upwards, they'll have a dotted line to me. You know, since I've been here, there's never been a person owning that. I think when I started, Tim was trying to own risk, and then I think Calvin was trying to own risk, and again by wearing multiple hats. So the expectation of what good looks like is that as a committee we should be receiving and Alison touched a little bit on it, but we would be receiving every quarter what are Selwyn's top 10 strategic level risks, and then doing a deep dive and a bow tie analysis on one particular risk. And we started seeing a little bit of that with Kelvin, where we did receive some bow tie analysis on individual risks. So, you know, we're resetting, but I think the solution is we can keep kind of having a long corridor around we're not receiving this and this and this, but we ultimately need someone to own it. We need someone to have this role to go
Agreed.
forward.
Thank you.
That's my rather long verbal report. If there's nothing else, I can move that if someone wants to second it.
Yes,
All those in favour? Thank you. Right, so November was a long time ago. Tim.
I haven't got much to report, and what I did have was probably covered in that that conversation we've just had. So we are going to the market for a risk assurance person. We intend to get a internal audit work program to this committee sooner rather than later. We have in last week, I think, we have a chief information officer has been recruited, so that we'll also add another layer of assurance, hopefully to our cyber issues. Yeah, and I think Alison's covered off where we are with PwC and the other things that are going on. And again, there has been significant personnel change. I came into the enabling services role in November. I think we've only had one meeting since then, and that was a extraordinary meeting. And obviously, staff are under a lot of pressure for the long-term plan. But as I say, come May, there should be a number of these issues that you've raised, Phil, that hopefully are covered off. Thank you.
Now, there are questions or comments for the manager's report. Yeah, if someone move. And second.
Yep, maybe a second.
And all those in favour?
Aye.
Right. So our report in our public section of this hui is our BCA report. Is it Vanessa?
Vanessa,
No.
that's Monique.
Morena, so I'm Vanessa Mitchell. I'm the head of building, and today I've brought with me Monique Bars, who is our building quality manager. So in November last year, I gave a verbal report to this committee on our BCA accreditation, and the report we present today is the actual IANZ report. So I'll take that report as read and happy to receive any questions.
Actually, can we not take the report as read? We have read it. But can you just please give us a, your cover note's very comprehensive, but can you just maybe give us a kind of run through of your cover note and almost just a summary of where we're at and how we need to move forward, just so that we can obviously minute that as well.
Sure, no problem. Yeah, as discussed in the verbal report that I did at the last meeting, the accreditation process has become very detailed, and you'll see that in the findings in the IANZ report. very fine-tuned checking of our procedures and systems. In terms of the number of non-compliances, along with our statutory compliance rate, which has been gradually improving, are the reasons why IONS have considered us medium risk as opposed to low risk moving forward. We do intend to ask for that decision to be reviewed, and we're in the process of preparing a letter to go probably late this week or early next week off to IONS to challenge that outcome. In terms of our progress through clearing the rest of the general non-compliances, we've cleared 9 in total and 8 are partially cleared. Some of them won't end up being cleared until everything is complete, and that's because the quality manual, being the overarching document, has been tied into every single GNC that they possibly can. So yeah, we've still got 14 still to fully clear, including the serious non-compliance. In terms of the data we're sending back to assist with their understanding of where we're at with statutory compliance, we've gone back into our system and pulled data from the 1st of June, which actually shows a higher rate of compliance for consents lodged from that timeframe forward. And that's just to highlight to them the impact of the jobs that have gone over 20 days in the system, what they have on the stats as we finally work them out of the system over time. Just need to cover the minute. Oops.
Maybe what might be a good area for you to start with, because as you can imagine, as a committee member, we've all read the report and we've read your very comprehensive cover note, which is great. The questions that may come, if you're trying to anticipate what my colleagues' questions might be, it's going to be, what have they got to worry about? You know, so what do we need to be concerned, and what's the action going forward? I know we've got the action kind of work program, but it's about building the confidence of, do we need to be worried, and what are we going to do about it at a kind of simple level?
So it might be good, Vanessa, if you could start with the serious non-compliance, because I think the committee might be interested in understand what that is about.
When we lodged, sorry, I'll just refer to the document to clarify that.
Talk about serious non-compliance and 6 outcomes.
Yes. Yep. Okay. So this one came out of a new rule that IONS have put in place. If we received a general non-compliance at a previous audit round, and we're still not meeting that particular item at our next audit, it automatically becomes a serious non-compliance, not just a general non-compliance. So we had a few changes in personnel within our commercial team, and somehow along the line that ball got dropped on how they were actually following the process. So we're rectifying that with the team now. In terms of should we be worried at all, this audit highlights, I guess, a real lift in the level of detail that IONS are going to compared to previous rounds of accreditation that we've been through. Worried, no, it simply means we have to have another round of accreditation on a yearly basis as opposed to 2 yearly. That does mean a lot of work for Monique and the quality team, but we also have the opportunity when they come in a year's time, if we feel like we are ready for it, to ask them to do a full audit so that we can return to 2 yearly assessments rather than yearly. I think questions will be fine. Yep.
I'd like to stay on that serious non-compliance issue for now. I guess I'm seeking some, as a governance team, seeking something from management that we're not, with the 11 current general non-compliance issues that we have, just I think it was 11 that we still haven't quite cleared, is that right?
14.
14. That come October this year, we're not going to end up with 14 serious non-compliance because we haven't done anything. We've only got 1 year now to clarify this. So there's 2 questions here. Let me finish the other one too. Also, an undertaking from the management team around Well, I want some detail about why it wasn't fixed up in 2021. I think this is a fair comment when the governance team should be asking the question saying, how could that have come about? When it's put us into from low risk to medium risk, which let's not understand, that's $50,000 worth of ratepayers' money that it's costing us in addition for that area.
So to the first point, we won't be in October having 14 non-compliances still outstanding. We have to clear these by the end of March.
Right. So by the end of March, if we don't have them all cleared, will they all be cleared?
Our aim is to have them all cleared. If we've got any issues, we can apply for extensions, but they're only granted
Sparingly, yeah.
Sparingly. Yeah.
So it's probably fair to assume that next assessment we will have more serious non-compliances because we haven't completed our general non-compliances within the time frame.
No, I wouldn't say that.
Didn't you just say that under the new IONS rules that if we don't complete something in the compliance regime, then it's elevated to serious non-compliance?
If we had a general non-compliance at our last accreditation round and it's still not addressed, 100%, it becomes a serious non-compliance, yes. We have to address all of these now, and part of the process that we run annually is auditing on all of our procedures. So we're making sure that our auditor is really focusing on the key areas that IONS have raised previously.
I'm going to pull you back to the meeting we had when you verbally presented this to us last year, and you were going to be reviewing that process at that point. But we're hearing now that in fact you're just now going to be asking for a review on the medium back down to low risk. So have we lost some time between when that was going to happen?
It was our intention to always ask for a review on the time frame. It's just a matter of timing as to when we lodge that to best effect. Now, we lost a bit of time over the Christmas period, so we lodged quite a few of our answers and resolutions to some of the GNCs prior to Christmas, and we took about 3 weeks for those to come back. Is cleared or not cleared?
If we just reiterate the question, is there a risk? I guess what Phil's kind of asking, is there a risk that the non-compliances will switch over to serious non-compliances, or is management confident that they'll be able to close those non-compliances out?
Yeah.
I think that the thing we got to realise is that with a non-compliance, we have 3 months in which to clear a general non-compliance or any of the non-compliances. So we do that, and then we've got to work actively to make sure that we maintain that higher level, because we have to obviously improve how we're delivering what we're doing, following up, make sure our procedures are up to scratch, that sort of thing. So it's about making sure our team are maintaining that standard, that new higher standard that will ensure that we don't get another non-compliance or a serious non-compliance the next time they come through and audit us. So the key is, and we've actually said to explain to our team that it's up to them. This is not just sit with the management team from the building department. This sits with everybody. Everybody has ownership of making sure we're following what we're saying, what we're doing. And so we're wrapping a whole lot of training and other support around the team to help make sure that happens, and making sure we're continuing on with our annual auditing of our procedures and systems to make sure people are following those.
So just to rephrase my question again, do you feel, I put this in a positive view of a question, do you feel you have the right level of resources, time and support to be able to close out these non-compliances in a timely manner that means that they don't end up being serious non-compliances?
Maybe I could just jump in as acting CEO and also perhaps putting my old hat on. When I was the director for development growth, noting that Bob, who is the acting manager now, is in the room. But the answer is yes, there's always a risk, Phil, but we can give an assurance that we will place as much resource as the building team require to address the non-compliances. But you can never remove all risk, but we're trying to minimise it as much as possible. And there's an undertaking from management that the team will have the resources to address those non-compliances and future audits.
Yeah, I guess it really does link into the conversation we were just having earlier on too, around the risk and everything. So
I've got a few questions, but just one that's relevant to that korero is that I was thinking when I was reading the papers a few days ago was that when we do strategic level risk and we identify what are Selwyn's top 10 strategic level risks, this would be one of them.
Yep.
And obviously at the high level, given this is a large part of our mahi of what we do, you know, because obviously if worst case scenario it goes through the MB process and we can't do what we need to do, then you know, we're not delivering on our strategy. So behind that, there'll be this whole work program of almost your work program of making sure that that risk never eventuates, because it's that catastrophic that, and I think it was Christchurch City quite some time ago, wasn't it, that it did happen, didn't it? So yeah, there's that linkage again between risk. So any other questions from
Phil's asked what I questions that I was going to ask, but and the insurance, I mean, my main insurance is our systems and where we are sitting with those. I have done in the past, been on the other side, being an auditor, auditing things, and basically when the major things are fine, then it does get into more detail, and it's great because it's actually them reviewing someone independent reviewing your systems, and I think it's really good, and we need to just be looking at it from that perspective, and then trying to hone in our systems to make sure that we cover up all these things. Because my concern though is some of the things that they've brought up. I mean, particularly as Phil has said about having the outstanding issue from the last audit. I mean, that's 2 years ago, and we need these are things where our systems, whether we're closing them out. I don't know what we've got, but yeah, when these people come and audit, they're going to be different things that they're looking at, and we have different things. So don't take it as, you know, you've done something wrong or something. They're there to check the systems and find things out. So it's good that you are looking at those and have come back and saying that you're trying to meet it. And that was my other main concern, was about whether you're meeting the March timeframe, because now that is just next month. But it's good to hear, and thanks.
Oh,
Kia ora, ladies, tēnā rā tātou. Thank you very much for your report, and I know how hard you work, so thank you very much for all of your hard work. Well, I don't actually know how hard you work, but through previous reports, I know that you're very committed and to doing your best, and through the significant challenges. So thank you very much, and to your team, their hard work. There's a number of consistencies that seem to be flowing through around potentially capacity, but also digital. The digital capacity capabilities that we have. So I hope that through the long-term process, we're able to find some solutions that make life easier, more consistent, and in time. So for me, that some of the questions are being asked around priority. Where does it sit in our priority? Because there's some other parts in here that I find it's significant in our significant policy, but it's also quite high in significance. So some alignment in some of that reporting, a timeline, and the monitoring of seems to be quite a consistent issue that comes through. Page 17, this report is for information only and is not to be considered significant in the context of the council's significance policy. But further down the page, building team can continue to deliver building control functions in the district. Council's risk register as significant, so some alignment there where it's not significant, but it is quite significant and is now raised to medium significance, I guess. It seems to be, you know, inconsistent. There was just one other question that I had on page 22. The issues identified pose significant risk are the records not readily accessible, incomplete records stored. So I guess back to that capacity and potentially digital. So do you see the digital investment of this council of large benefit to particularly your team?
Absolutely. to get one source of truth is really critical for the council. At the moment, we're heavily reliant on our Alpha One system, which was only ever intended to be used for the building consent while it was in process. We're still reliant on going back to that for the final record rather than going to the property
Yes.
file. And while we've been in a state of growth, most of our work has been new, so that's been helpful. But as things slow down, we will find more and more alterations happen, and that's where we need to be able to easily lay our hands on those existing plans and specifications.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I think I've kind of talked through most of my questions. Again, thank you for the report, and thank you for your cover note. Cover note was, I thought it was actually almost, it was so comprehensive that I obviously did read the entire report, and actually having the summary of table of non-compliances at the end. So very well written cover note, which is always a good idea when you're presenting bad news. It's well written and you're going to take us on a journey. So well done on that. Yeah, so keep an eye on capacity. You've heard from the acting chief executive that resource is not a problem and that you'll get all the support you need. So I guess if head of building, make sure you keep that in the back of your mind. And also there was I noticed in the schedule that some of the names of people that owned certain activities, you know, some of those personnel have now exited.
Yes.
So just make sure you revisit that. And again, if it's a capacity issue, you've heard from the acting chief executive. It's not material from a financial thing, but it was more just my own understanding. So obviously the cost that we I think, you know, it's a per, we push that cost on to, you know, the per meter as well. But when we shift from medium to high risk or low risk to medium risk, and obviously the frequency of the audit becomes more frequent and therefore more cost. Does that cost just get absorbed by council, the additional cost if we shift between risk grades? Fairly granular question, apologies, but it's more from my own understanding.
No, that's all right. So on building consent fees, we charge an accreditation levy, and that generally covers the cost more than the cost of accreditation on a 2-yearly basis. So I'm not too concerned about it on a yearly basis at this point.
Right. Okay. Thank
you. If numbers decline on consents further, then it may become an issue, but I don't see that at the moment.
Right.
I have just one thing. I'm so pleased you to start to about clarifying things. Is there something in this report which I don't understand? And I was going to speak to you beforehand, but I didn't get a chance. It's the percentages of BCs issued within 20 working days. It's a blue graph. Do you know the graph I'm talking about?
Yes.
I don't understand the bottom line. Is the bottom line the percentages?
Both lines are percentages. So the bottom line is taking applications that have been received from the 1st of June onwards to show the difference. So the top line shows the lower percentage where we've still got old jobs hanging in the system that are already over 20 days.
Gotcha.
And when IANS were here, they were only looking at the figures in the top line because we had to extract that data separately in the bottom line. So that's some of the data we're pushing back when we ask them to review.
That makes sense. Yeah, I understand. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. No other questions or comments, then I can please have someone to move the BCA accreditation review. Thank you, Phil. Seconder. Thank you, Nicole. All those in favour?
Aye.
Thank you. That's great.
Thank you.
That moves us into public exclude. I'll please have someone move us into PX. Thank you, Nicole. Seconder?
Yeah.
Phil, thank you. All those in favour?
Aye.
Just one moment. It's good she hasn't, I haven't got a PX, so I haven't got an update. Sometimes I put
Got John Jessup from Cord will be speaking to you.
the
Incident
yeah.
that occurred at the waste.
Those pictures, it was horrific, wasn't it?
Yeah. So I think we've got online Lisa and
Yeah, and what's the health and
Stacky.
safety?
Yeah, Stacky. Trying to think of his name. I called him Stacky.
Oh, he was on before, wasn't he? Oh, there he is, one. Yeah. Okay.